Hi, and welcome back to Pinky Boo Hauntings. I'm your witchy host, Shy, and I'll be your guide to all things paranormal, weird, and spooky. And today we're going back to Reddit for some Reddit stories. Are you guys ready? How about we just get right into it? Our first story is called The Story of a Rainy Night in the Pathway. I haven't experienced many spooky things myself, but my family has, and what I'm about to share still gives me chills. It's about jinns. For those who don't know, jinns are supernatural entities that are said to live among us, unseen. Between our house and our neighbors, there's a narrow lane people whisper about, the path of the Djinn. The room beside it has always felt off. Anyone who sleeps in there sometimes hears footsteps at night. Not normal footsteps either. They sound heavy, indistinct, and impossible because there are solid walls where the sound should be coming from. I'm gonna assume no one wants to sleep in that room. Like, I know it'd be annoying and a little scary to hear people walking outside of the bedroom you're trying to sleep in, but if you knew it wasn't just a person, I'd say that would be way scarier. Can't imagine anyone gets too much sleep when they have to stay in that room, huh? But they go on to say the scariest incident happened back in 1998 during the Great Flood in Bangladesh. If you remember that time, you'll know how bad it was. Endless days of rain, floodwater everywhere, and nights without electricity. The whole atmosphere felt heavy and eerie, with nothing but the sound of rushing water and thunderstorms in the distance. One night, my uncle was sleeping in that room. Around midnight, he was jolted awake by a deafening crash, like something huge had fallen. Right after that, he heard the sound of many footsteps running outside, as if a group of people were circling the house. But the windows were tightly closed because of the storm, and the road outside was underwater. Nobody could have been running there. Then, just as suddenly as it started, everything went silent. At that exact moment, a thunderbolt struck the old tree in front of our house, setting it on fire. Everyone in the house came rushing out and saw the tree burning in the middle of the flood. It burned for a long time before the rain finally put it out, leaving only a blackened trunk. After that night, we stopped using that room. To this day, it's only used for storage. And sometimes, even now, someone swears they still hear footsteps from the Jinn's path when the house is quiet. I honestly don't blame you guys for not using that room anymore. Again, if you know for sure there isn't anyone outside that window, and I mean, if it's flooded, you would know, then it would keep anyone that sleeps there up all night. No one would ever get any sleep, that's for sure. If for nothing else, the fear and panic keeping them up. All right, let's move on to our next story. It's called My Child Has a Mean Friend in Their Room. I don't need to hear anything else. They need to leave. The mean friend, not the child. I should make that clear. I'm not saying yeet a child out of the house. I mean, I guess you could, but you'd probably find yourself in jail, so don't do that. Anyways, let's actually see what this friend is doing. So, I'll start off by fully acknowledging that children have extremely vivid imaginations, and this whole experience could have very well be in my child's head. That being said, ever since we moved into our new house just over a year ago, my child, now almost 3, has occasionally told us about a mean one or mean friend that is almost always said to be above the doorway in their room. The first time or two, me and my wife just assumed it was some overreactive imagination and maybe some anxiety from the move revealing itself as this friend. But after 5 or 6 times, it's slightly concerning. And then this evening, we hear our kids start crying in their room, and we go and check to find them hiding in their closet and won't say anything about what was upsetting them. Just saying no to being sad, mad, upset, hurt, hungry, tired, etc. That is until we ask if they were scared and get a slow nod. And then I mention to my wife about the mean friend. And she asks if that's what was scary. And we get another nod from that. Just looking for any information, lore, ideas on spirits that may prey on children and or stay above doorways, assuming this isn't something psychological that they'll hopefully grow out of. Thanks in advance. That poor baby. Listen, I know kids have active imaginations, but this seems pretty real. And children are known for being able to see the unseen. They aren't yet shut off to that world like most adults are. I do believe they're experiencing something. I also, unfortunately, think it's possible that there is something in that house. You said you moved not long ago, and if this started after moving into the home, there is a huge chance there's something that was there before you and it might be feeding off your kid's fear. Man, I hate even saying that because they're only 3 and shouldn't have to deal with this. But at the same time, kids are a lot easier to scare and get that fear the spirit needs. They are also easier targets because they aren't closed off from the other side just yet. I think a lot of spirits know that, and that's why they seem to come to the kids more often, whether it's a past loved one or something more malevolent. If anyone is dealing with a spirit that's feeding off of their fear or their kids, the only real thing to do in that situation is to not show it fear. Ignoring it or even laughing at it will eventually get it to leave you alone. It's definitely going to get pissed off and try even harder before that, but trust me, it's effective. I will say, I know this is a lot easier said than done when it comes to kids. I guess you could also try setting boundaries, making it clear that it's not allowed to scare or bother the children in the home. Maybe even do a protection spell or prayer on your kids. Oh, and you definitely need to try cleansing the home too. Everyone should do that when moving into a new home. Clear out old energies and the like to make the home yours and not have to deal with the former owner's shit. Because that's how you get a thing hanging out over your kid's bedroom door and trying to feed off their fear, unfortunately. Let's move on to our next story because I can feel myself getting ready to ramble about fear eating ghost, and I know I'm going to end up going around in circles. So, for our next story, it's called Closing Time and Never Again. Never working a close alone. Even outside of the paranormal, working a closing alone just sucks. I've done it many, many times, and I never enjoyed it, especially when you have to keep going out into the dark all by yourself. I'm sure there are a lot of people that can agree, including the person telling the story. So I'll stop talking and get back to the story. They say, I work as a hotel cook. After we switch from restaurant service to bar, we go down to one cook, and that cook primarily finishes prep from the day so open is set, and sometimes pop off an order. I was chopping vegetables for the morning omelets when I had to walk away to make an order of wings. The kitchen is shaped like a T. The vertical section is prep and ovens, and then the horizontal is the line with the cooler to the right and the server station to the left. I was standing in the middle of the line when the top of a bus tub went sliding across the floor towards the line. I slowly turned around and seen a blue lid sitting in the middle of the floor. Hello? I called out, like the next victim in a horror movie. I pulled the wings and called them up and waited for the prankster to come out, but they didn't. I walked around to the prep area and no one was around. My knife slid off the table with a considerable force, like someone hit it with a sweeping motion, and skipped across the floor towards the back of the area. I stumbled backwards, then ran for the servers section and out the reception. Security did a sweep of the kitchen and checking the cameras, most of the hotel's footage wasn't recording. This happens often. Cheap system from cheap owners. I went back to close and bribed the security guard with fries to sit back with me while I closed. Going to request I work opens after this. I know this is an easy thing to just come out and talk about, but I'd love to know if there's others that have any weird experiences too. Like, was this ghost acting out because they weren't used to you working nights? Or do they do this to anyone that works the night shift? I will say, it was messed up they threw a knife in the floor like that as well. Even if it was the case that they didn't like you, that's just rude. We don't throw sharp things unless we are trying to cause harm. I don't blame you for running out after that, if for nothing else, for your safety. I don't know if they meant any harm, but might as well not take a chance something did hit you. There are too many things that could hurt you in a kitchen, after all. It's also a shame the cameras didn't record any of this, though I get the feeling it wouldn't have made you feel any better. I get it could have just been something messing with you, but I feel like a coworker would have come out and said something. You didn't even hear a giggle? What coworker plays a prank on another coworker and doesn't pop up laughing at the victim? That doesn't seem very fun for either of you. So, if it wasn't another coworker, the only other thing it could be is an apparition. And I can't imagine watching a lid sliding across the floor or a knife flying off a counter all on their own would ease you in any way. Smart move bribing the security guard to stay with you. Doesn't necessarily mean the spirit would not keep acting up if it wanted to, but you would have at least had another person experiencing the same thing. Might help you feel less crazy. I'm assuming nothing else happened though. So, not gonna lie, I do think either it doesn't like you or it was just acting out because it's not used to you closing. Alright, let's move on to our last story. This one is called Someone That Looks Like Me is Sleeping Next to Me. Hi, I am new here, but I have been left slightly unsettled. Recently, I have moved into an old Victorian house, and some weird stuff has happened. For example, knocks around the house and breathing at my door with no one outside. But there is one thing that has really unsettled me. I was on FaceTime with my partner, and we usually fall asleep on FaceTime. But this one night, she woke up and told me she saw someone sat up staring at the wall with an almost blurry face, and she spoke to it through the phone, but it had no reaction to it, and next to it was me sleeping. My partner hates stuff like this, so it's not something she would just make up. Does anyone have any other explanation for this? Well, I think your first mistake was moving into an old Victorian house. No, no, not really. But maybe expect some spooky shit to happen in a house like that. Or is that just me? I do want to live in a home like that, and I assume it'll come with some ghosts, so maybe it's just me that expects some paranormal stuff. Like, do you guys see a Victorian house and assume it's haunted? Or no? I will say, I do not like the breathing outside of your door. That's a fucking creeper ghost, and I think you need to tell it to piss off if they're gonna keep that behavior up. The knocking would be annoying over time, but you can also tell it to stop that. Like I said before, cleansing really is a good idea when it comes to moving into a new home. It helps you set your intentions and lighten the air. You can live with the spirits of the house, but they have to understand that you live there now too, that they have to share the space with someone. I guess it's like having a roommate, except worse, because hopefully your roommate is actually paying half of the bills and helping with the chores. And don't think I haven't forgotten the freakiest part of this story. I feel bad for your partner for seeing that, if she hates that kind of stuff. I can assume she probably hates it even more after seeing that. But then again, who would be okay after seeing their partner sleeping while also seeing them sitting next to themselves? As to what it could have been, it's possible you were astral projecting. So basically, your spirit is traveling outside of your body. People have trained themselves to be able to do it at will, pretty much, but sometimes people do it involuntarily. I'd have to look it up again, but there are a lot of reasons for why it could happen. I think one of them is stress. Not saying you were stressed or anything, it's just the only one I can think of as a reason it would happen unknowingly. It also could be a spirit, but let's go with the less scary of the two options. Alright, that's all the stories I have for you today. I do hope you're enjoying these, and if you've learned anything from today's episode, I hope it is to cleanse your new homes or your home of many years. Just cleanse everything every once in a while. It helps clear out negative energy as well as stagnant energy. It's just a good thing to do from time to time. Oh, and if you'd like me to read your listener stories, the email will be in the show notes or the description, depending on where you're listening to this. And don't forget to check me out on Instagram and Threads as well. But for now, the coven is adjourned. See you next time. Bye.